Number 1. In the early 1950s, a strange woman showed up in our quiet Georgia town, asking for a teaching job. She was nothing like the people around here. She was elegant, polished, the kind of woman you'd expect to see at a finishing school in London, not trying to get hired at a makeshift classroom inside a church. But no one questioned it. In fact, they were thrilled. A cultured teacher was seen as a blessing. People said it would be good for the kids to learn manners and proper speech. They just called her teacher. Classes were held in the old church building, and at first, the children loved her. She didn't just teach them reading and maths. She taught them etiquette, diction, posture. The kids came home with perfect handwriting and new vocabulary. The parents were thrilled. Some even called her a gift from God. But not everyone felt that way. There was one man in town, Smith. He was the local drunk, the kind of guy people usually ignored. But he started telling stories, dark ones. He said he'd seen the teacher out in the woods at night, dancing around a campfire, chanting in some weird language. Said she had an altar in her room, and it wasn't for the Almighty. Nobody believed him. They said he was drunk, crazy, but a few weeks later, things started to change. The kids weren't just learning manners anymore. They were different. They stopped laughing. They stopped playing. They started whispering to each other in that same strange language Smith had mentioned. And when they got in trouble, they didn't cry or apologize. They'd just stare at their parents with cold, empty eyes. Soon, people started noticing things going missing: jewelry, cash, tools. When questioned, the children lied. Flat out, bold-faced lies with no shame or fear. One woman said she caught her daughter punching her younger brother and stealing from him. But when she confronted her, the girl called her a liar. Another mother admitted that she'd heard the kids playing deep in the woods, chanting and dancing in circles. She said it didn't feel like a game. It felt like a ritual. Still, most of the town refused to believe it had anything to do with teacher. She was too polite, too refined. But behind closed doors, parents were starting to get scared. Smith, meanwhile, kept shouting in the streets that the teacher was turning the children to the devil. He said she should be burned, just like they did in Salem. Most people laughed at him, but the pastor didn't. He never admitted it, but something about what Smith said must have struck a nerve. And then one Monday, everything came to a head. The pastor's little boy had come down with a cold, so his mother kept him home from school. That afternoon, while the pastor was at work, his wife overheard the boy chanting in his room. She crept to the door to listen. He was saying the Lord's Prayer, backwards. She told her husband as soon as he came home. He was pale as a sheet, clutching his Bible like it was a life raft. There was nowhere the boy could have learned something like that, unless it was from the school. Right then, the attorney's wife burst through the front door, screaming that Smith was running through town with a torch, threatening to burn the church down. While the kids were still inside, the pastor ran. Everyone ran. By the time they got there, the church was already in flames. Smoke poured into the sky, and the screams of the children echoed from inside. Some parents tried to get in, others ran for water, but the fire was unnatural. It burned hot and fast, like something was fueling it from the inside. And through the roar of the flames, some people swore they heard laughter, not from the kids, from her, from teacher. When the fire finally burned out, there was nothing left, not the desks, Not the books, just ash and bones. Every child inside had died except one, the pastor's son, the same boy who had stayed home that day, chanting the Lord's Prayer in reverse. After the fire, Smith disappeared. Some say he left town before anyone could charge him. Others say he was never seen again. The teacher's body was buried under bricks, sealed away as deep as the town could dig. The children were laid to rest under small wooden crosses behind the church ruins. They call it Burnt Church now. No one rebuilt it, but the story didn't end there. To this day, people say if you walk through the graveyard on a quiet night, you can hear chanting, not in English, in that strange, twisting language the kids used. Some say they've seen figures moving through the trees, small shadows, little footsteps, and if you're brave or foolish enough to take a brick from the teacher's grave, it won't last long in your home, because sooner or later, it always catches fire. Number 2. This happened in October 2022 in a suburb just outside of Toronto. My name's Justin. I was 17 at the time, and like most teens, I was just looking for a fun Halloween night with my friends. What I got instead still messes me up to this day. Part 1. The Dare. My friend Kevin had this idea to do something old school for Halloween. No parties, no trick-or-treating, just the three of us, me, Kevin, and our buddy Eli, spending the night exploring the old house on Glenmore Drive. You probably haven't heard of it unless you live around here, but it's one of those abandoned houses kids whisper about. Boarded up windows, overgrown lawn, and the cliché someone died there story that no one could actually confirm. But the weird thing is, the place never got torn down. It just sat there for years. No one came or went, no maintenance, no city signs, like the town just forgot it existed. Kevin dared us to go in that Halloween night. Said he'd seen a door in the back that was pried open. Of course, we were all trying to act tough, so we agreed. Dumbest mistake of my life. Part 2. Inside, we got there around 11:45 p.m. The street was quiet, dead quiet. I remember looking up at the house. It had this sagging second-story window that looked like an eye half open, watching. We crept around the back, climbed through the busted screen door, and stepped into a kitchen frozen in time. Cabinets still full of dishes, rusted utensils on the counters, a moldy dish towel hanging from the stove. It didn't feel abandoned. It felt paused, like whoever lived there left suddenly and never came back. We moved carefully, flashlight sweeping over dusty furniture, framed family photos, an old TV. Kevin laughed nervously and kept saying stuff like, bet they had dial-up internet and a VCR. We were halfway up the stairs when we heard a thud from the second floor. We all stopped. Then Kevin whispered, probably just a raccoon or something. We kept going. Part 3. The bedroom. The upstairs hallway had 4 doors, bathroom, 2 bedrooms, and a 4th door at the end. That one was different. It was painted red, with black handprints all over it, like a kid smeared charcoal on their palms and pressed them into the wood. We opened it. Inside was a small bedroom, toys on the shelves, a twin bed, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. But the weirdest thing, the tape recorder sitting on the desk, like one of those old-school handheld ones therapists used in the 90s. Kevin picked it up and pressed play. At first, all we heard was breathing. Then a boy's voice. If you find this, don't open the closet. We all looked at each other, and then the closet door creaked open on its own. Part 4. Something inside. Eli stepped back. Nope, I'm out, but Kevin, being Kevin, walked over to the closet and shined his flashlight inside. Empty, just some clothes, a shoebox, dust, and then we heard a voice, a whisper, coming from behind us. That's not where it hides. We all spun around. No one was there, but then Eli screamed. I turned back toward the closet and saw it. A pale hand, long fingers, too many joints, reaching out from behind the clothes. We bolted, no hesitation, down the stairs. Kevin almost tripped and cracked his head. We didn't stop running until we got back to Kevin's car. Part 5. Aftermath. We never told our parents. They wouldn't have believed us anyway. But here's the part that still keeps me up. A few days later, Eli sent us a photo. He'd gone back, alone, during the day to prove it was all just our imagination. He snapped a picture of the bedroom before leaving. Only when he looked closer. In the closet mirror, you can see all three of us standing in the room. Kevin, me, and Eli, and someone else. A fourth figure standing behind me. Tall, shadowed, its head bent at an unnatural angle. I moved houses the following summer. Haven't spoken to Kevin or Eli in months. And on Halloween, I stay inside. Because wherever that thing came from, I don't think it ever left me.